So, all right. So it's just about 3:15, and so I'm going to get started. For those participants, quite a few of you today, which is very exciting. The reason that I pulled this together, the Visionary Collective, is I immediately saw how people were panicked and they were concerned, and a lot of people need direction. And I think, if anything, the social distancing had its novelty for just a little bit. Oh, I get to stay at home, or I get to do that. But quickly it has worn off for most people. A lot of fear of the unknown, the uncertainty. They don't know exactly what to do their business. And as I shared with all of you, a lot of these people are in real estate and some are not. Some people actually logged in from fashion, which was great. Advertising, technology, love it. People that I don't know. That's really exciting. But I think that the thing I want to talk about here is there's a couple of reasons I'm doing this. One, I get to see, I think video conferencing is great because the face-to-face is so much better actually seeing you guys versus just the phone. Like, I miss seeing your faces. I love it. I love seeing your faces. And, the second thing too is just that human connection. We need it. And we need to understand, I said a little bit earlier, we were chatting before we actually officially started. The truth is, I personally want to know as a business person, I want to know how to position myself when things pick up, because they will, and what information can I learn now that would actually make me a better real estate broker or consultant as this all picks up. And the three of you have phenomenal backgrounds. I just want to take a quick minute and now, as I said yesterday as well, today I could read for 10 minutes on each of you. You have all done so much and have such impressive backgrounds. So for the audience today, I just want to introduce you first. Mark Fina. Mark, you have actually, oh wait, wrong thing. Sorry, I just pulled up. Let's see. Mark Fina, who is, okay, there we go. Mark is the Chief Creative Officer at Airparis Agency. And for those of you who are familiar or not familiar with Airparis, they are known for luxury branding. They are world renowned for this. And Mark is their global chief creative officer and a friend and a brilliant mind I have seen at work. But let me just read you his bio a bit here. Mark is a multidisciplinary creative director with deep expertise in beauty and fashion. Mark began his career in the traditional worlds of beauty and fashion, developing strong visual aesthetics for iconic brands. And just some samples, there's a huge list here, but like Fendi, Henri Vandel, Hugo and Hugo Boss. Those are just to name a couple. And he's also worked with renowned photographers and directors, including P. Horst, I hope I'm saying this right, Peter Lindbergh, Raymond Mir, and many, many others. And then as his career progressed for several years, he was the creative director and EVP at Gray Advertising, where he was known for his genius creative and strategic abilities, which includes a sophisticated instinct for knowing what people want and how to speak to them, while still making the ad look beautiful and alive with the right talent and image makers. I think that's just phenomenal right there. I mean, I've seen your work. And today he is known for developing brands like Diesel, Tom Ford, Michael Kors, Marc Jacobs, and Longchamp. I mean, he's brilliant. I love watching you work. So, and then we also have Lauren Verussio. He's the global head of consumer communications for YouTube at Google. Lauren is known as a rising star in the Google communications world. After only a short time at Google, she was promoted to the head of consumer communications at YouTube at Google. And prior to Google, she ran the entertainment communications for the Major League Baseball group and worked at Virgin Atlantic, assisting in communications and events department. Lauren also is a board member of the Human Rights Campaign, and I have personally watched her be responsible for raising millions and millions of dollars for the organization. And a little fun fact, she lives in Brooklyn with her fiance, Jen. Cathy Murphy, say hi, Cathy, just wave, so we're keeping everybody separate. She is the co-founder and CEO of Venus Media. Cathy has a diverse background in media that ranges from TV to digital sales and strategy development and implementation. With her in-depth knowledge and experience, she has often been called upon for developing effective strategies using multi-platform approach for advertising. As such, she launched her current company with the following thought in mind, which I love this: if you think you can do better, then do better. And apparently that was the spark that ignited Venus Media. Venus Media specializes in reaching women where they are, in the boardroom, on the playground, at home, and in stores. Prior to her launch at Venus Media, her roles included head of vertical sales at Facebook, where she was responsible for Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp. She was also director of sales at Pandora, New York, and sales at CBS News and Radio. So needless to say, I have three powerhouse people who are experts at what they do. And so I just want to kind of jump in and start asking you guys questions, as I'm sure the audience would love to hear from you as well. Mark, I'm going to start with you, okay? You have created visions for various luxury brands that needed a refresh for next generations. That's one piece of it. And you've been doing this for a long time. You've also navigated tough cycles where maybe luxury isn't what is at top of mind, like now for people, right? So again, this is about positioning people who, again, people are involved with a luxury brand on this call. And how are we moving forward? And, what do you think, is really what do we want to keep in mind when we're talking about luxury right now? Maybe one or two things, ideas.
I think that, because we have this discussion a lot right now, and I gave a talk last year at Parsons about luxury and the definition of luxury, which is a very gray area now. Who's to say what is luxury? It's very hard to pin down. It can be a t-shirt. It can be a haute couture gown. It really depends on the image that the brand puts forward. How do you win today? It's really about being, at least with the brands that we talk to, about being transparent, authenticity, letting consumers into your brand story. And then the other part of that is innovation. And that's where we think, if we look at forward, because there is no more normal, that's where how we're going to play in the future. You can see that the digital medium and shopping online, how products are made, how quickly are they made, how does it affect the environment? That's a lot of what the conversations are really rotating around as we think of things. I think that innovation is really where the key is going to be, and who's going to win there. We can see that for a lot of smaller players, and this is in real estate or restaurants or all these other businesses, that they're really hurting much more than the big players. And that's going to be an interesting shift in how they can actually find funding in the next 12 months or 9 months to actually do that. And I think where they're going to win is, again, what they have over the big companies is innovation. They're able to get together, solve problems quicker, and get to market faster. And I think that that's the truth. Like you hear in the restaurant business, I just heard about what they're doing. They're taking the waiters and the waiting staffs now, keeping the kitchens going, but now turning them into delivery staff. That's innovation.
Right. Keep
That's
the job.
That's the human instinct. That's what we do and what we can do. You see what's going on with the ventilators. They're taking smaller tools and turning these things around within 48 hours. That's how we're going to win. And we're going to win in luxury. I think that thinking of that and looking for doing things differently is really where we should be focused.
That's actually a really good point. So if I can, just tap, it's speed, it's almost efficiency. Like, how are we really looking at luxury differently than it was 10 years ago? And that's actually a really interesting point, because there's a lot of technology to create efficiencies.
And I think the globalization too, China is going to be back online. Our office in China is coming back online within the next week. They're going to be ahead of us by a few months now. So we're going to need to turn to them. So if we look at that and how that relates to their platforms like, Weibo and WeChat, and then how can we bring that back in here? The communication that we're doing right now with, we're starting to look at things like, wow, we are really efficient out of the office. Do I need that much of a footprint?
Yeah, right.
Questions that we're starting to evaluate from a business point of view.
That's actually a really good, that's actually, Cathy, Lauren, do either one of you want to comment on that? Because we were kind of talking about that a little bit before we opened up. Lauren, you were talking a bit, at YouTube, what are you seeing in terms of how this is affecting with business going forward? So again, we're dealing with luxury products and homes. People are dealing with fashion, but what does that really mean? What is a luxury? What is, you know, as someone at YouTube and the messaging you're sending out there, you just told me that you turned one thing that took you 6 weeks to do to 3 days. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those key words that were just used, innovation and speed, and also another comes to mind, which is flexibility. Everything is changing right now so quickly, right? What the prognosis for our current fate was last week is way different than it is right now, right? Last week, I still thought I was going back to work on April 10th. Not going to be the case. So things are changing very quickly. So we've tried to remain as flexible as possible. And one of the things that we're looking to do is ensure that from a communications perspective, anything that we're putting out there remains appropriately toned. A lot of people are dealing with this in very different ways, right? Some have lost jobs. Some, you know, if they're going to school and that was their only meal of the day, now they're not getting a meal that day, right? There's just so many really grave situations. And so anything that we're putting out in a proactive perspective, we want to make sure we remain appropriately toned.
And Lauren, could you lean forward just a little bit more into your speaker?
Yeah.
I just got a little tap that people were having a little bit hard time just understanding you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, gotta love technology.
That's much better.
I have to be honest. At Google, we use Google Hangouts. So this is my first Zoom. So I am.
Well, that would make sense. That would make sense. Yes.
We've used them all now.
Use it all, exactly. And it goes back to, you know, your other point too, which was how we're being flexible and how we're all working differently now and what the new normal is going to be once all of this is in our rearview mirror. So to the footprint point, I think I logged 100,000 miles going to LA last year. I might not have to do that as much anymore. We're getting just as much done, if not more work done, because we're really utilizing technology in ways that could speed up business, create connectivity, engage with those around the world. That's really what we're tapping into right now. I do see this as a positive. And then the last thing that I'll answer for you, Chris, is what we're doing from the communication side at YouTube is we are asking ourselves, what type of brand do we want to be during a crisis? Because we are in a crisis right now. So how do we want the world to perceive us? And the way that we're approaching this is we want YouTube, the company, to take a step back, and we want to push forward anything that we think is useful to our users, provides community, can create engagement. Those are the pillars of YouTube. That's what we believe to be what our bones are. So what we're doing from a project or a proactive perspective is mining through what our creators are doing, mining through what our artists are doing, celebrities, etc., what they're doing on our platform already. So YouTube, the company, is taking the back seat, and we're pushing forward all of the good, all of what YouTube stands for in this time of crisis. And that's who we want to be, and that's what we want to try to communicate during this hard time.
Right. Okay. And so on that note, which is actually a really good point, you know, obviously real estate's come to a standstill, and, you know, we are all moving the best message out there to keep connected to our clients in a really genuine way. And again, luxury products. So as you are in YouTube, what is there anything in particular, any messaging, anything you're seeing that's most effective that, you know, it's people are going to literally start buying online, literally, and because they're not going to have a choice right now if they have to move. So
I just rented my new apartment. I'm moving, you can see,
yes,
on the 15th, but I rented the apartment without ever seeing it. It was a virtual tour. And
wow.
There you go. And he's in New York City. Did you see that? Great. So that's a really good point.
It can happen.
Any messaging on YouTube that you are seeing that seems tone appropriate, that would make sense for real estate?
People want to connect. People are feeling very isolated and they want to connect. So what we put forward, a campaign that would have taken us 6 months, we turned over in 3 days. It's a whole with me trend that we're seeing on the platform, where our creators or celebrities are inviting folks on to say, cook with me or jam with me or get ready with me, even though you're not going to leave the house. So we push all that through. What we're seeing is connectivity. And so while things are at a standstill, very simply connecting with your base, showcasing that you are there, going back to how you want to be perceived as a person or as a brand in the midst of a crisis is what we're trying to propel forward right now.
Right. I love that. With me. I love that. It's hashtag with me. That's great. So for those of you who are on the call and you're thinking about how you can genuinely connect with your clients or people that you want to stay in touch with, I mean, you hear about the happy hours, right? But what can you be that's more creative? You know, I always make the joke that I think a lot of people, you know, join a 12-step program after this, but, you know, it's like, you know, people are stuck at home. But, you know, like, how can you really create something that is of value for your clients and they can see another side of you that makes you more human and they want to connect with? Cathy, my friend who is, you know, I'm going to throw this one out at you. Okay, what are the relative digital marketing trends? Maybe 1 to 2 points that, you know, you are seeing. You book across many platforms. What are you seeing across platforms now? Like, what are clients asking for? What do you think from any perspective? Like, what's the best way for somebody to be looking at Instagram, Facebook? Because there's the one thing I want to point out is there's a lot of people who will say they'll use like apps that you sign up for and you spend $50 here and $50 there. And, you know, I don't know that those are always effective. They might be, but they might not be. And so where can people be spending money in a smart way right now?
Yeah, the first thing that I would say is don't spend money if you don't have to. And that's my literal first place of advice. What I think you can do right now, in particular for your audience, since it's really real estate focused, is think about what your unique selling proposition is as a brand or as an individual. So when I'm ready to move, like Mark just did, or I am aspirationally thinking about moving in 3 months or 6 months, why would I choose you or your building or your brand to be affiliated with me? And so I think now is a great time for people to really think about what their personal brand is, and then put that out on all of the social and digital channels that they possibly can. Everybody has free time, so why not start a blog? I've started a blog recently. Why not start talking about the things that you can do when you're looking to buy a home or when you're looking to purchase a luxury brand? That is free and that is easy. Revamp your website. Do you have a personal website? If not, I highly recommend that you go on Wix.com, create a personal website, and start sending people there through your digital channels. And then you can create things like how-to videos on YouTube, how-to videos on Instagram, do the same on Facebook to make sure that all of the mediums are interchangeable. And so the digital trends that we're seeing right now is that, of course, more people are spending more time online. So the hottest things that people are doing is probably what you're all doing right now from your home. You're watching more TV than you've probably ever watched before. So everything from Hulu watching or Hulu ads to anything in the advanced TV space, anything that you can be streaming, that's super hot. That's where people are. Also, using a lot more social media for, again, that connectivity. They really want exactly that with me campaign. They want to be doing things with other people. So I think that this community has an opportunity to be a resource so that the minute things turn back on, they have your brand in their mind and they think, hey, I've been reading her blog for 2 months already and she already gave me some great tips of things that I can be doing, and that's super helpful to me. And so when I'm ready to sell my house, I'm going to call her because she seems incredibly knowledgeable in this space. So think about what your unique selling proposition is, put that out there for free, and then eventually you will see what kind of engagement you're getting from the community, and you can choose which posts to either boost or to magnify for a pretty nominal fee.
Right. Okay, good. So if I'm hearing you correctly, just to recap for the group, you don't need to spend money, and now is a good time just to set up the basic systems to communicate with people. Your website, super easy splash page, some content, and then pushing that across digital. But you know, like the $50 ads, that kind of thing, you don't really think that's effective right now? Is that like, you kind of need somebody to manage those campaigns for you to really if you're going to spend money and optimize it. It's otherwise it's kind of a waste of money, isn't it?
I absolutely think it's a waste of money. So there is kind of a rule of law in advertising land that what you really need are 2 things. You need a lot of reach to reach your target audience, and a high frequency. Think about the last time you purchased something new, not even a major purchase like a home, but even a small purchase, right? Maybe you recently bought a new suitcase, although we're not traveling right now, but something that is, you know, not a major purchase. And you needed to hear and see and be exposed to that message an average of 8 to 15 times. That's a lot of times before you're even going to start to get in the consideration phase. So if you only have $50 to spend on a campaign, the odds that the same person is going to see that 8 to 15 times is pretty low. And so I would save your marketing dollars until you get to a place where you have more than $50, obviously, and work with somebody or an app that can help you facilitate that. But I honestly think there's a lot that you can do right now to build your brand for free and to be a resource and a guide in the community.
Yeah, that's great.
On that
please,
point,
Mark, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
Very smart marketer that said to me early in my career, he goes, at least when I throw change down a drain, it makes a noise.
Right, that's great.
So when
that's
you
excellent.
think of that, you really have to understand how you're spending. And you know, Cathy brings up a really great point that, but when you're doing that, the number one rule is, should I share it? Why would someone care? And through that, the linking right now, you really have to humanize your message and educate. And a lot of that goes through the conversation. And when you're able to do that, then you create a link to someone. You start giving them and always looking at it through their eyes, not your eyes.
Right.
And I think that that's the best way to build that bond.
Right. And, you know, and to speak to that point, I'd love to hear, you know, all three of your thoughts on this. There is a lot of noise, right? Right now, people are overwhelmed. They don't know how to sort through anything. And you may not have the answers to this right now, only based on maybe maybe you do and maybe you don't, but like, what would you say is a good way to communicate with people right now that kind of filters out the noise?
I can give my perspective on what I'm doing. So my job leading the communications team is to communicate with reporters all of the time. And our reporters right now are obviously being inundated with everything that is going on. But when they take the reporter hat off, they're human. And so even if I don't feel like it's appropriate to reach out and pitch this story to this particular reporter, I'm still going to text the human on the side and just check in and see how they're doing. And that right now is what myself and the team are driving in on. It's just maintaining those relationships. Ultimately, when we come out of this, we'll have therefore continued to build those relationships. But if we feel like it's inappropriate to try to sell something or pitch something or whatever it might be, what we're reminding ourselves is, you know, when the reporter takes their hat off, they're humans dealing exactly with what we're dealing with. And it's those side texts. I saw today was your birthday on Facebook. Happy birthday. How are you doing? We so often just say, hey, how you doing? And go right into exactly what we need from a business perspective. We're actually asking reporters how they're doing and listening to how they actually are feeling right now to maintain that human connectivity and build that human relationship.
Right. No, that's actually great. Anybody else want to, I think you just said it perfect, that human, but anybody else have thoughts on that?
I think to me, it is creating a conversation. And, you know, there is a way to sell things today, but, you know, what do you really need? And I think that's what people are evaluating today. Clearly people needed toilet paper and a lot of it, but on that point, that when you have a conversation and you talk to a friend, and I think that's the way that we have to think about things, is step back. Don't talk like a brand, talk like a person. And when you're able to do that, there's an honesty to it. How can a lipstick change my life? How can a new piece of real estate change my life? And the reason I moved is because the agent that I was working with I've had a relationship with her over the time and cared about what was going on in my current situation, said, you should think about this. Let's look at these other options. How can we take that through? No, I don't think those are right for you. Telling me things like that is a better way to sell things because it brings me in. There's a trust that's built up. And I think you can do that very quickly now by presenting yourself in an honest way and thinking about who you want to be and how you want to be is the best way. And then if you do that in an honest, authentic way, people respond to it, particularly now because we're all listening, we're all looking.
Right. No, and Mark, I mean, you actually make a good point. It seems to me when, again, luxury, you have to be very careful in how you're presenting it right now in this changing time. But what I've seen in luxury trends is a much more personal side to things that are warm, not stock. It's very, there has to be like a personality there, not just
look
pretty things.
Look how many films right now are in the factory.
Yeah.
We've seen them from Vuitton all the way to Chanel to Prada. These are big luxury brands that are taking you into a dirty factory and showing you how a bag or a shoe's made. Why are they doing that?
Right. Because it makes it human. It makes it human, right?
It adds value.
Yeah.
It adds value. So the less money that we have or expendable income, and this is not the 0.1%, this is the other part, but people, and it's also an education process. It gives you something to talk about. And that can go all the way through real estate to wines to food or any of the cooking things that we go on. It's bonding and relationship building.
Right, right. So as I'm thinking about this, for those who are trying to stay in touch with the luxury client who has that home, I'm thinking about all of these. You could host a high-end wine segment for your clients. You could do things with the touch that come in and things that are important to them, that say you understand their sophisticated taste, but also want to make this human. You can do things like that. Yes.
Someone just did that with my brother. They brought people to their apartment. They hired him out of the wine shop to come there and just talk about tequila.
See, exactly, right? Yeah, why not?
That was it. He was there for 2 hours, and that was, and it's an interesting thing,
Right.
People learn something. It was an experience. And I think when we look at where we're going to go, yeah, we might not be flying off to everyone, but we might be exploring where we are, exploring the environment around us and the things that we consume.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I am going to open this up to some questions just because they're starting to come in. And I just want to recap, what we're talking about here. And I have one last question for you, Lauren, really quick. I'm assuming that YouTube Live has exploded.
It has.
Yeah.
We have actually put together, from our chief business officer down, a new content plan, given our new COVID environment. Mm-hmm. The content plan is made up of 2 work streams, one being VOD, which is our video on demand, and the other being live. We've seen so many musicians go live. We're seeing our creators go live to donate to various organizations, and we have a few tricks up our sleeves to tap into the live stream front coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, got it. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so I have a couple of no-no questions here, which I think is interesting. The first one is, from a digital marketing perspective, what is an absolute no-no?
I'll chime in here. Say an absolute no-no is spreading yourself too thin. So don't spend just $50, back to Mark's analogy, and use that to buy or boost ads on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all over the place. Start with one channel that you feel comfortable with, right? I'm a huge Instagram stories girl. You know this, Kristin. I post almost everything on stories.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a great, genuine, authentic way for me to connect with people. So find your platform, find your authentic voice, and start there. And then slowly expand to other platforms, because if you try to do too much all at once, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, nothing is working. So that would be my first no-no.
Yes. Yes. Okay, great. And did either one of you want to comment on that? I have another question here, which Lauren, you'll probably.
No, I think that in that, just tell the truth.
Yeah, right. Tell the truth. Yeah, right. And then this kind of is along the same lines. Are there any marketing and PR no-nos that should absolutely stay away from in the face of the pandemic?
I'd say from the PR perspective, it's what we've been saying throughout this entire call. You have to make sure that anything that you're doing feels human, and you have to make sure before you hit send or before you pick up the phone that you keep the appropriate tone and you're really listening to the other human on the other end of the phone. Every day we're feeling differently. Some days we're feeling up, some days we're not feeling up. And so if you're picking up the phone and you're chatting with whomever, really listen to hear how they're doing that day. And if they're not having a great day, don't pitch them on anything. Just tell them that you're there for them and continue on. So it's being a human throughout all of this. So don't be not a human. That's the no-no.
That's good. Another question, from a digital perspective, how do you avoid buying stuff or investing in things that just create bot leads? Any thoughts on that? We buy or whatever. Go ahead, Cathy.
Having worked at Facebook, and what I would say is, first of all, in the digital marketplace, there's a lot of fraud and it's somewhat hard to avoid. But the best way to make sure that you are engaging with people is by starting your own brand, communicating authentically, and measuring against people's engagement. So let's pretend you only have 100 followers, but of the 100 followers, 80 of them are actually engaging with you and doing more than just liking your page, but they are actually commenting, or maybe you ask a question, how's everybody feeling today? And 60 people actually type in an answer. That's what you want. You want that engagement. And that's how you'll try and stay away from the bots that could be following you in the marketplace. It's somewhat happening anyway to everybody's account, but the way to stay away from that is to really measure engagement.
Okay, measure engagement, right? Because I know personally, I have done things where, you know, I get leads that you never even hear from. You follow up with them and they just go dead, and you wonder if that was really a person on the end or not. So, you know, I thought that was a great question. So if I can recap everything here, if I'm talking about this, so the things that we can be doing right now to put ourselves ahead is, one, you know, our own webpage, something to drive people to, possibly start your own blog with specific topics and push that out across platforms. Be really conscious of the tone, and remember there's a human on the other side. And as far as luxury goes, as we push that out, well, what is luxury today? We have to be careful right now that we're not sending the wrong tone, the wrong thing. And that even before this pandemic, luxury was really trending towards, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, a much more human touch. Just like you said, everything that, you know, why is all these incredible brands bringing people into the factories, right? It's all about that human connection.
It is about the human connection. And, you know, just quickly, we're doing much more. It was a trend where everything had to be 3 seconds. We were told by a lot of the media giants that everything had to be short. Now everything has to be long.
Wow.
There's a reason for that. And this is why you see all the live programming, all these other things that are engaging people in a more humanistic way. You know, you see celebrities doing funny things and being self-effacing and joking. It's pulling people in.
Oh, I just froze. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, mine just froze. I don't know if yours just froze, but mine just froze. Okay, good. All right, well, any other final thoughts that each one of you have? And then I'm going to wrap things up because it's now 3:45, and I am so grateful for all of you. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think that our behavior's changing. Change with it. Get on top of it. Innovate.
Great. Lauren?
I was going to say something similar. Meet the human where the human is. So be authentic, innovate, and find some common ground with people.
Yeah, totally. And Cathy?
Keep it simple, stupid. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just keep your message authentic and simple. That's it.
Yes, that's great. Okay, good. Well, I cannot thank you all enough. For those of you who are still listening and on here, we have quite a few people. If you want to talk to any of these people, please let me know, you know, and I can probably connect you. So thank you again, and have a great day, and good luck with everything that you are doing. Okay. And it's great to see you all. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Too. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this, Chris. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Much.